Hello. This is J.Blues, and this is the Real Talk Blues. And not gonna lie, gang, I'm kind of upset. I spent the past hour or so yapping about a show that I watched during my time away, which was The Fall of the House of Usher, and I had such a fun time. I yapped for about almost 2 hours about the show. And unfortunately for me, none of it, I was muted the whole time. And, my heart's broken. So, because my heart is broken, I'm not gonna do anything with it, at the moment. But while I was thinking about kind of the best forms of, something fun that I enjoyed, I wanted to talk about something that I had love for and that I lost love for it as I got older. And that thing is, yeah, you knew what was coming to. Can you just minimize, move you here? God, it's just like Twilight to take up all of the attention. There we go. Twilight. Yeah, that's right. I loved Twilight. I know, shocker, right? Like me. Like, just imagine a young black boy watching Twilight for the first time and not gagging. Not even watching. I read the book first. So I read all the books because, don't let the suit fool you. But I was a whole ass goth. I was a whole ass Breaking Benjamin, Limp Bizkit, My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy, literally all of the goth, right? And before anyone talks about, oh yeah, his black card gotta go. Hey, I was still listening to rap at this time, okay? I don't want to hear it. Honestly, rap is pretty goth if you think about it. Tupac was pretty goth. Think about it. If you listen to his songs, yeah, he had the I Get Around. But think about some of the other songs that he sang where he got real serious. And you'd realize Tupac was a goth boy. No, I will not be answering questions. I don't care. But yeah, when I was younger and the first book came out, I was a little goth black boy. And, I was like, wow, this is great. Because I've always loved supernatural stuff. I mean, Yu Hakusho is my favorite anime of all time. Of course I love supernatural stuff. But, my first interaction with vampires was not Blade. That was my second interaction. My first interaction is watching Interview with the Vampire, the one with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt in it. That was my very first interaction with vampires. And then I was like, vampires seem kind of wimpy. And then Blade came out and I was like, oh, yes. And then nothing about vampires for many years until Twilight came out. Now, before I, questioned a lot of stuff that I watched, I read Twilight and I was like, wow, Bella's really interesting. Bella's really interesting. Edward. I really like Alice. Wow, Jasper's so cool. God, Jasper's so cool. Emmett's just a big, golden retriever. Esme seems decent. Carlisle seems decent. Rosalie, I love Rosalie, okay? And then in the second book, and Jacob was kind of there. Second book, Jacob shows up. Leia shows up. I love Leia. The third book comes on. I'm like, oh, okay. And then the final book came out. I was like, oh, okay. So, but even with all of that, I still love Twilight enough to write fan fiction. And yes, once again, yes, black man writing fan fiction. Yes, it happens. We out here. We exist. Like I'm an author by trade. Like I fucking love to write. And my it's so much that me and my twin, you know, she and I were like, the biggest love you could show to something is to write about it, you know? And so I did. You know, I wrote about Twilight. I wrote a few fan fictions for Twilight. One is still out there, but I'm actually okay. You know what? I'm gonna never mind. It's out there. I was gonna give you the name, but then I remember I should keep that secret. But I love Twilight enough to write fan fiction about Twilight. Okay. And even now, you know, I'm at my big boy age, I have appreciation for Twilight because looking back on it and rereading it and stuff like that, I realized it was very, very problematic. And I knew it was problematic from the jump when I first read it, because I came out of Twilight going, I fucking hate Edward. I hate Edward a lot. Like he seems very controlling, you know, and very stalkerish. Now, okay, and I'm about to show myself out here. Like I read all the books, and then I didn't even bother with the movies because at that point I kind of was fed up with Twilight, and I was just like, I don't want to watch the movies. But I still loved it enough to write about it. Now, as a former fan, as somebody who used to watch it, I feel like if you just hate it because you go, oh yeah, it's, you know, oh, that's lame, the vampires sparkle, oh yeah, it's like, if you say any of that, you're hating it for so superficial reasons. That's a superficial reason. Like, in order to hate something, you have to have been able to love it first. And while I hold a special place in my heart for Twilight, there's a lot of issues with Twilight. Issues that when I recently reread them, I was like, holy shit. Like, okay, prime example, Jasper Hale, Jasper Whitlock, the God of War, the General. Why the hell does he have the power of empathy? Well, he's a whole Confederate soldier. Like, their thing is literally about it. Like, I feel like, okay. I'm about to get on Jasper for a hot minute, so bear with me. Jasper Hale, Jasper Whitlock, whoever you want to call him, General, whatever. His whole deal was that he was a Confederate soldier during the Civil War, and he got snatched by Maria and became a vampire. And then during that time, he, you know, like zoned out until he found two vampires who loved each other, which is Peter and Charlotte, and let them go. And then eventually he walked his own path and met Alice. Okay, there you go. But my thing is, you cannot have empathy. Like, and the thing with Twilight vampires, you know, forgive me if I'm wrong, but isn't there, like, when vampires have gifts, that's because in the human life they had like a stronger like affinity for that certain gift. Like, I think Alice, she had precognition, so when she became a vampire, she could tell the future somewhat. Jasper's the same way. So he must have been very empathetic when he was alive. Well, he was a Confederate soldier. You can't have it both ways, Stephanie Meyer. You can't have it both ways. And I get why. And vampires being Confederate, like being in a confederacy, that's a whole conversation that people way better than me have spoken about. But that was my thing. Like, why would Jasper, like, okay, I'm about to put on my fanfiction goggles right fucking now. If I was Stephanie Meyer and I wrote Twilight and I had a character like Jasper and Bella asked, so you were alive during the Civil War? And then he could have said, yeah, I was a Confederate soldier. And in actual canon, she was like, oh, cool, whatever. And, you know, kind of like brushed aside. But there could have been so much growth for Jasper for going, yeah, I was a Confederate soldier. I'm not proud of what I did. And being a vampire opened my eyes to the horror that I was fighting for, because I can feel the emotions of every human that I bit off, that I, you know, drained. And, you know, after living all these years, all these decades, you know, centuries, and seeing the world around me change, and seeing that, you know, people like my papa and people like, you know, the slaves, then we're all just the same. We're the same. We feel the same things. We all fear death at the end of the day. And I hate that it took for me to become a vampire to understand that empathy, especially when I was enslaved by Maria. But it gave me a greater, you know, a greater shame to the things that I did and greater insight to the things that I did. And you could have shown Jasper as like, you know, he does like a lot of donations to like HBCUs and all, like, you know, he's a Confederate vampire who's trying to make up for the horrors that he did when he was alive during the Civil War. Under a better author, that would be a fantastic book. Like, you could have him with like a black love interest and everything. Like, you can straight up pull something like that. You know, because he has, you know, centuries on it, right? So Jasper being my favorite vampire, I totally missed the fact that he was a Confederate soldier until I did my reread. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. What the fuck? How did I miss this? You mean I was writing fan fiction about him and Bella and I didn't know? No. And don't ask how that gleaned. Like, when I heard Civil War and he was like, oh, I have the power of empathy, I naturally assumed that he was a Union soldier, you know, and that's on me. That's my bad. That's my bad. So that's the first thing, Jasper. My second issue is Jacob. So, oh boy, Jacob. Like, okay, I know the big elephant, and you know what? No, I'm not gonna go on Jacob yet. because it's only gonna get worse. It's only gonna get worse. I want to touch upon how Rosalie and Leia were treated like absolute dogs. Not only are they treated like dogs in like in canon, I've read so many fan fiction where they're treated horribly too. And the only times they're not treated horribly is if they're the main stars, like if they're the focus of the fic. But even then, you know, you have to be iffy. Like, Rosalie is somebody that Stephanie Meyer failed, both her and Leia, because both of their backstories is something you could write a book about. Like, Rosalie, not only did she get, you know, GR'd, that's how I'm gonna call it. Not only did she get GR'd and then left for dead, but she was turned without her permission, by the way, which is also the kind of the fucked up part, is she got turned without her permission. Only also Carlisle could find Edward a wife. Do you like that's all sorts of fucked up. Like, she had her agency taken away from her twice, right? And then she decided to go on a killing spree against the guys that jarred her. And ultimately, revenge is good. Revenge is good. Revenge is good. That's a whole book. But like, every time she brought up everything about Bella, like, oh, don't take away her agency, and being human, like being a vampire isn't all that cracked it to be. Everyone treated Rosalie like Meg. Shut up, Rosalie. They treated her awfully. It was crazy to me. So, and then Leia. Oh God, Leia. So, Leia, like I said, her past could also be a book. Like, can you imagine? Like, imprinting could legit be a horror story. Like, I mean, Twilight on its own, if you like switch a few things around, Twilight itself could be a horror story. Like, you could easily make Twilight a horror story. Like, make everything Edward does creepier. Like, actually, no, you don't even have to do that, because his stuff is inherently creepy. And I'm not talking about the age gap, because I'm gonna be so honest when I say this. Vampires are always gonna have an age gap. Like the woman, like the human spouse, whether they are, 18 or even 50, they're always gonna have an age gap against a vampire. But it's so much creepier how, because Bella wasn't even 18 at the time. She was like, what, 17, 16? I think, around that age. When the first Twilight book came out, she was around that age, right? So it's so much creepier. And then him having, being all hot and cold with her, stalking her, busting into her window when she's sleeping, when she's only sleeping in like a t-shirt and some panties. Him being very controlling and obsessive. Like, that's just, yeah, he's very creepy. You could easily turn Twilight into a horror story. But I was talking about Leia, right? And I'm sorry if my mind keeps going zip, zip, zip. This is how I am. I'm sorry. But Leia, also a sad story, alongside Rosalie. Leia had the misfortune of having a good boyfriend, only for him to imprint on her cousin. Like, he even promised, he was like, I will never imprint. Even if I do, I will always love you, Leia. He imprints on her cousin Emily. Bam, instantly in love with her. And let's not even bring up the amount, the spousal abuse, like the domestic abuse, and how that's like a stereotype with, indigenous people. Like, and to make it worse, so like Emily refused Sam. Sam bucked up, got mad, shifted into a werewolf, scratched her, de-shifted. He never hit her again after that, but she just forgave him, and then they got together, and then they flaunted their relationship in front of Leia. Leia, who's already upset about Sam imprinting, leaving her for Emily, and scarring Emily, and being betrayed by Sam and Emily, because Emily also promised, she didn't want Sam, and we all know how that turned out. She was so upset, she shifted into a werewolf in front of her dad. Her dad gets a heart attack and clocks out. And her brother, Seth, seeing his dad clock out and his sister shift, he shifted. And not only that, she also loses the ability to have children. So, and actually, now that I think about it, that's also a thing that I take umbrage with Stephanie Meyer, is the whole, okay, so vampires can't have children. I almost called her a werewolf. A female shifter, rare as they are, cannot have babies, but male vampires can have babies. Stephanie Meyer, I just want to talk to you. I know you're Mormon. I know a lot of Mormon stuff is in here, which also made a lot of stuff make sense. I was like, the minute I found out she was Mormon, I was like, okay, that explains a lot. And so like Rosalie is like, okay. Leia's like, okay, both tragic stories. And I love the overall thing about the vampires and the Quillettes. How, you know, white people move around and immediately every POC around them is on guard. Like the optics of that, like just think like the optics of that. It's crazy to me. Let's see, who else do I want to talk about? Emmett, not much to talk about. He's just a golden retriever as a vampire. That's literally it. I have nothing to say about him. Alice, I feel like she would be an interesting, I feel like she would be, man, how do I want to discuss Alice? Like, because I feel like Alice is interesting in the right writer's hands. Because she's under Stephanie, I mean, honestly, you can say that about all the characters. Under a good writer, you know, they will all be interesting. But Alice, I think, suffers from this a bit too, because like a girl, you know, who was taken and bitten by like and that's right, because I think the first villain, James, I think, was the one that turned Alice, because that was his singer, right? So like, you easily could have had the story be about Alice and going like, oh, I recognize him. That's, you know, I feel like you could have made the first movie about Alice, you know, trying to save this human from the person that shifted her, you know, that changed her. But she was just there to shop. And I know there's like some things to be said about how she treats Bella throughout the series that I don't like. She kind of treated Bella like a baby doll, like a replacement child. And I know there's like a bigger thing about that. And again, way better people have talked about like nuances of this. But I feel like Alice, as she has an interesting backstory, but she's not interesting herself. You know, Esme has the same issue. Actually, no, there's one thing I want to say. Esme was also like, I think, in a Civil War era, right? And Carlisle was her doctor growing up. That's like, I used to think Carlisle was just a good man, but Carlisle had his problems. From not asking Rosalie's permission to change her, to, I don't want to say he preyed on Esme, but at the same time, he kind of did. That was his, like, isn't there a rule against doctors dating their patients, even if they're no longer their patients? You know, and he was her patient as a child. And she was around the time the Civil War happened too. So wouldn't she and Jasper have had like words? That could have been a dynamic and a conflict right there, truthfully. See, again, under a better writer. But Bellamissimo, Isabella. People make her to be very boring, but in truth, she is actually very interesting. In the sense of, she has a defined character in the books versus the movies. She just doesn't want to die. She wants to live forever. Like, if this was a movie about a girl tricking a vampire into changing her so she could have her forever life as a young, you know, thriving, you know, vampiric white girl, people would eat that up. People would absolutely eat that up. And then she has to deal with the vampire's like abuse. And then when she changes, she just tears them apart and then walks away. That would have been so, that's a good storyline, because that's pretty much what she wanted. You know, she didn't want to be, you know, a human. She didn't like aging. She wanted to live forever, you know? Like, she's the type of girl that like, and so one of the biggest things, so like I said, I'm a Jasper Bella shipper. I'm also a Jasper and Leia shipper. And there was a fanfic I read a long time ago where Jasper and Bella, they planned the bite and New Moon so Jasper could change her, but then Edward got in the way of that. And like at the end of it, they're like sitting in the car and Bella just goes, shit. because that's all Bella wanted. Like, I don't even think she really, like, it's obvious she loved Edward, but if she could become a vampire by her own means, I bet she would rather take being a vampire over being a vampire with the old ball and chain, you know? But Bella had her own flaws. Like, like, everyone likes to think she's like a Mary Sue, and in some cases she's right. She's an attractive white girl. She's a brunette, attractive white girl. The pale, like, literally, she's paler than the moon. Eyes that shine like stars. You know, a girl worth fighting for. That's pretty much what Bella's character was. She was a girl worth fighting for Edward, for Jacob, for all her lame ass friends in high school. That's what she was, all right? And while she's going over there like, guys, I'm just ugly, you know? No one wants me. I'm ugly. I'm so boring. And it's like, I get it, okay? But she has her Mary Sue tendencies, but she's still a character of, I don't want to age. I want to be immortal, you know? So she kind of had a thing. And what makes me even madder is in a post Sinners world where, like, the characters and the vampire, with the short amount of time they had, they didn't have, you know, 4 movies and 5 movies and like 6 books. They had, like, Sinners had like 2 or so hours, but we have distinct, like, we have characters that we can chew on, backstories that we can chew on and we can be interested in. And not only that, you have your side characters and the tiny characters where people are like, what about those characters? How'd this happen? Like, we didn't have that with Twilight, because all the characters, like, I could sit here and talk about how Jasper could redeem himself for being, you know, a fucking Confederate soldier, how Allison could be, you know, more interesting, how Emmett could whatever, how, you know, there could be some dynamic between Esme and Jasper, how Rosalie could go on her revenge spree, how Leia deals, like, I can go through and look at all the characters and go, man, you know, instead of them being all in the background for, you know, a love triangle that wasn't really a love triangle. And now I can talk about Jacob and the Quillettes. First of all, shout out to the real Quillettes, because they do exist. One thing I was shocked to find, and I mean this very, like, this year, I found out the Quillettes, I don't know if I'm saying it wrong, I'm so sorry if I am, are a real tribe in Washington. And that shocked the shit out of me. I was like, they're actually real? And they have to deal with the fake, with the thing that Stephanie Meyer, like, why didn't she just create you know what, whatever. Why didn't she just create a tribe of her own? She must have just went on Google, okay, Native American tribe in Washington. Oh, the Quillettes. Okay, done. And that's it. So now, like, I actually went on the website and fucking, actually, hold on. Okay, so hold on. So I like to do this all in real time. So bear with me here for 1 second. So, like, I can keep it there, I guess. There we go. They're a whole, let's just do that. There we go. Okay, so yeah, their whole tribe. Like, they're in the push and everything. Talking Raven, like, see, like, they have a whole thing about who they are in this media policy. Like, it's amazing to see. hold on, click here to read a full statement. Oh, this is about the fireworks and stuff. But like, they're a whole tribe out, or not tribe, but like a whole, I guess, would that be? I don't want to be incorrect about, this shit, But the point I'm trying is that they are like, okay, here's their culture, right? Akalat or James Island. So this is everything about their culture. So they have a whole like section in here about the culture and about the etiquette. And I bet Stephanie Meyer didn't even fucking take any of this into account. Like they have a whole community, a whole culture, it's like a whole government. And what did Stephanie Meyer boil them down to? Oh yeah, they're shifters. They're werewolf shifters. They're werewolf shifters. That's all they are. And they okay. I'm gonna take this by piecemeal, okay? Because dealing with the fictional Quillette tribe and Jacob, it's like a whole. It's like you're sitting there with a Big Bang burger from Persona 5, and you have to like kind of plan out how you're gonna eat it. Because there's so much to talk about. First of all, and forgive me if I'm wrong, Native Americans have a thing about cutting off their hair, right? And what does Jacob do? He cuts off his hair to assimilate and to like to be the thing that he thinks, Okay, hold on. I want to get my words right here. So they have a thing about cutting off their hair. Jacob cuts off his hair. I can't remember the reason why he cut off his hair. I don't know if he was like, oh, I just needed a style change or something. But again, Native Americans, and I don't even think Taylor Lautner is Native American. They didn't hire a Native American person. I don't think they did. But I mean, I guess because like this is the problem about like going on Google and just looking up shit and putting that in your book, because now you have to, because now I'm like, okay, well, since they were a fake tribe, maybe the Native American thing where they don't cut their hair, maybe it doesn't matter for the fake Quillette tribe. But then you're like, but did the real Quillette tribe, go by that rule too of not cutting their hair? Because there's a whole like history for their hair and Native Americans in general. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do not hesitate to correct me if I am wrong. And like, I just don't like the optics of him, because let's look at all the guys in here. Jasper, short hair. Carlisle, short hair. Edward, short hair. Emmett, short hair. Alice, short hair. Jacob, short hair. So I feel like he kind of he did it to like assimilate into like Bella's life more to, and because I'm awake, it's kind of like assimilating into white culture by erasing the culture you came from. You know what I mean? Like getting the ick from that. Second thing, the Quillette tribe, like, oh God, the imprinting. Okay. First of all, Stephanie Meyer, when she talked about the imprinting and like, she was like, oh yeah, Jacob fell in love with Bella's egg, and that's why he fell in love with Ramenstein, right? But it doesn't work that way. If it did, it would be Jacob falls in love with Edward, because it takes a sperm to fertilize the egg. So it's like Jacob would have had to fall in love with Edward, like imprint on Edward the sperm he left. And then it would go from Edward to Bella, and then from outside of Bella to Ramethal. So it's like, so can you just imagine, like, like the Twilight series would be so different if it went by that logic of, okay, he fell in love with Nessie. So he fell in love with Edward first. Then they had sex. Then he fell in love with Bella. And then Nessie came out. And then he fell in love with Nessie. But also, the whole imprinting business is fucked. It's absolutely fucked. Because, okay, this is gonna sound kind of fucked up, but I was talking to my best friend, my significant other, about this. And I was like, out of everybody in the Quillette tribe, Quill Atarius V has it the worst out of all of them. Let me explain why. So all of the other members of the Quillette tribe, on the exception of Leia, because fuck Leia, and also Seth, but like Seth, what did he? Anyway, too many questions. But like, every guy can, like, okay, hold on. Can Leia even imprint? Or is that just another thing only the males go through? Like, has that question been asked? Has that been answered? Tell me in the comments. But anyway, okay. So the members of the Quillette tribe, they imprint. A lot of them imprinted on people their age or older, or maybe like a year younger. Quill imprints on a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old by the time of Breaking Dawn. Jacob imprints on a baby. Now, it's fucked up, but follow my thing here why I say Quill has it the worst. Renee, she gets by being a magical, she gets by being a Dhampir. She grew up, you know, in like 7 years. By the time she had like 78 years old, she would be an adult, right? So even though Jacob literally imprinted on a baby, her quick aging would shoot her up to like adult status with an adult mind by like 7-8 years old. Everyone else in the tribe, in the fake tribe, has, you know, imprintees that are their age. Quill does not have a magic girlfriend. Quill only has the 2 to 3-year-old. Like, he can't even look at fucking Jacob in solidarity, like, hey, baby, imprint club. Baby, imprint club. Because by like 2 or 3 years old, she's already what? Like 12 years old, we can say? I don't know. My math ain't mathing, but like 12 years old. And then next thing, then he blinks and she's like fucking 18 and 19 years old at 7. Jacob only has to wait a few years. Like, in order for her to be, in order for Ramethal to be of age, technically. Stephanie Meyer, just what the fuck? Will has to wait like 16 years. He has to wait 16 years. And like, imagine if that poor baby's parents don't even know. Because imprinting, it goes by levels. It goes by like, okay, yeah, big brother, then into close friend, and then lover. So like, and imprint and shifters, they don't age until they stop shifting, right? So like, imagine her parents don't know, and like every time he comes to pick her up, he's like, hey, I'm here to pick up your child to take her to the park. Why does this grown-ass man want to pick up our child? Okay, whatever, you know, it takes a village to raise a child. And then like she ages until she's like, what, 10 years old. Hey, I'm here to, you know, take your kid to go see a movie. Oh, why is he still the same age? Yeah, okay, it takes a village to raise a child. Then she's like 18, and he comes to the door. Hey, I'm ready to pick up, you know, Claire for a date. Why are you the same age. And why are you dating our daughter? Didn't you know her since like 2 years old? Like, he's just fucked. He's fucked. And how do you, and how do you argue with someone you imprinted on that age? And I'll direct that question to Jacob too. How can Jacob and Quill like talk to people that they known since they were a baby? Like how would that, like, do you know how the arguments would sound? Do you even know the power imbalance that could be had? I mean, Jacob probably not too well because of the people he surrounds himself with now, but still, can you imagine the arguments, the power imbalances? Horrific. And fucking Stephanie Meyer has explaining to do. She has explaining to do, and I fear that the only time she'll give those explanations is when she's at Heaven's Gates and it's being determined whether she goes in or out. We'll never get explanations. Why would she do this? Why couldn't Jacob imprint on Leia at least? Give her a happy ending. Hell, how come Leia didn't imprint on Rosalie and Rosalie was like, Emmett ain't shit, even though he's a goofball, and they just run off and have lesbian shifter vampire adventures together. Yeah, I read a lot of Yuri stuff. I don't care. I'll admit it. I'm just saying, there's so much that's fucking wrong. And like I said, I know she was a Mormon. It was like an eye opener for me because it made everything, like every weird feeling I had from back then, from the very like first time I ran through the book series to now, makes sense. But the more I wonder, the harder the questions get. Like, you would think like there's some vampire in that world that are like, I can raise a bunch of super soldiers by getting women pregnant. Like, is that did that happen? I can't remember if that's canon or not. Like, do you know how many damn fears? Like, why? Like, and if a vampire is doing that, what? Like, okay. Oh, fuck. Okay, so I'm gonna end my yapping session on Twilight here. Okay. If you guys liked my yapping and stuff, you know, please like, comment, and subscribe and all that jazz. I'll have my socials in the description. Also, if you guys want to take a look at my main channel, which is the Lost Stargazer, Saturn J.Blues, I'll have that in the, comments in the description as well. But yeah, this has been J.Blues, and this has been the Real Talk Blues. And also, for people that don't know, the Real Talk Blues is kind of like a tribute to Cowboy Bebop and the real folk blues. You know, just figured I'd explain that. So yeah, this has been J.Blues with the Real Talk Blues, and hey, farewell.